Hello and welcome to Coding with Stephen. Today we're going to be running through one of our basic JavaScript challenges, working with powers numbers. Now what we've got up in front of us here at the moment is a set of instructions just on getting started with these challenges. I'll post a link to where you can download these or download the whole repository from GitHub and get started and get your environment set up just so that you can work along exactly as I do here. Once you've got your environment set up, we're just going to head over to the Working with Numbers Powers challenge that we've got here under the Basics folder. And first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the instructions file. And we'll notice that there's a set of instructions as well as this handy command here that we can run just to check our code is working and it passes the tests that we've set up for this particular challenge. So reading through the instructions, we've got we're going to have a function called to the power of, and what this function should do is the result of taking the first argument and effectively running to the power of the second argument and returning the result of that calculation. And for the purpose of this particular challenge, we're only actually going to need to worry about integers, which are essentially numbers of 0 and greater. So we don't need to worry too much about negative numbers or anything like that for this particular challenge. So what we'll do, we'll just have a quick look at the tests that we've got. I always find this quite useful just to get a bit of an idea as to what we're expected to be outputting at the end. And you'll notice that we've got a few tests here that will call the function to the power of, and we'll see the rough idea of what's expected. So when we pass in 2 and we give it to the power of 2, it'll return 4, 3 to the power of 3 will return 27, and so on. So now that we've got a bit of an idea as to what we're expecting out of the back of our code, we just head straight over to here to the JavaScript file. And we'll notice that we've got this function here to the power of, and what that takes is it takes two numbers, number 1 and number 2, and we know that all we're going to need to do is return the calculation of number 1 to the power of number 2. For those relatively new to JavaScript, JavaScript comes with a set of inbuilt objects which have nice functions associated with them that you can make use of. One that we'll be taking a look at today will actually be what's known as the math object. There's a really useful guide on the math object on the Mozilla website. I'll post a link to that in the video description so that you can take a look at that one at your leisure. And what you'll notice is there's a whole bunch of properties and a whole bunch of methods that we can call on that particular object that will do a bunch of things for us. What we're going to look for this particular challenge is we're going to look for something that will allow us to take one number and to the power of the second number and calculate the power of the second number. So what we've got here is a math object actually comes with a .pow function which you can call, and it returns a base x to the exponent power y, which is exactly what we need to do. So what we'll do is we'll just head along to this math.pow page on the Mozilla website, and we've got a bunch of really handy examples of how this is used and the rough kind of or the expected outputs for those as well. So we know that all we're going to need to do for this particular one is take a look at math.pow, and then we'll pass in the first number and the second number, and then it'll return a number for us. So now that we know that, we'll close this down and we'll head back to our function here, and we're just going to make use of that math.pow to return the calculation from that. So we'll just simply return math.pow. And what you'll notice when you start to type, certainly for objects that are built-in objects into JavaScript, when you start typing math, you'll notice that certain things get completed for you. And certainly when you are looking at the math.pow here, it'll give you a hint as to what arguments it's expecting and a rough idea of what's going to be returned from that as well. So what you'll notice is it says there returns the value of base expression taken to a specified power. So we'll pass that in two arguments that we're expecting. So number 1, which is the base, and number 2, which we're expecting it to be applied as the power of. We'll save that one there, and we'll go in and we'll run our JavaScript challenges, JavaScript tests, sorry, and we'll just check that this code is actually running as expected. So we'll run those there, and we'll notice that we've got 5 passing tests now, which is excellent. That's exactly what we were expecting. What I'd recommend, follow along and start making use of the math.pow, put in your arguments there, save it, run your tests and see that they're working. What I'd also recommend doing is take a look at this, both the math object on Mozilla and the math.pow explanation there. You'll find it really useful to refer to the Mozilla documentation for a whole bunch of stuff in JavaScript, so it's a really good idea just to get familiar with going and reading some of the documentation and then making use of it within the coding challenges as well. But once you're done, save that, run the tests, and you're all done.